So, welcome. Another afternoon here, but this one's pretty special. We're here at Greenpeace, and please just first tell us your name and what your role is in this wonderful company.
Be delighted to. I'm David Ritter, and I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Greenpeace Australia Pacific, though I still have to kind of pinch myself when I say that.
So David, this couldn't be a better timing for us to be having a conversation around what's just been announced in Australia the last couple of days. FightfortheBight, Equinor, and the drilling that's proposed. Tell me about what you first found out.
Well, there is this, maybe let's go back to the first reveal, right? Because there is this sort of moment when you know, everyone knows where the Great Australian Bight is, right? It's a great big curved bed at the bottom of the continent, so we all know where the Bight is. And then you kind of discover that it's some of the roughest oceans in the world, and it's full of all this amazing wildlife that's found nowhere else in the world, whale breeding ground, Australian sea lions, dolphins. It's incredible. But it's very, very rough. And then you learn about these amazing communities all up and down the Bight coast, and the Bight coast goes all the way from Western Australia, where I'm from, right round to Tasmania, Victoria, amazing communities on the way. And then you find out that oil companies, want to drill for oil deeper than the drills went in Deepwater Horizon, in some of these roughest waters on the planet. And you have that moment of finding out about this, which is like, whoa, hang on, that can't possibly be right. But here we are, for years, companies have been trying to get this project off the ground, trying to get their drilling going. And now here we are, it's 2019, we've got to act on global warming, we've got to phase out oil and coal and gas. Got this giant Norwegian company, Equinor, saying, here's our environmental plan, we can do it safely. And that's the moment where we're at.
Yeah, it's been incredibly well planned by their part. There's a very short period of time, around the next 20 odd days, for, as I believe pronounced right, Nopasima,
that's right.
Yeah. That who will approve or disapprove of this plan. Now, for people in short who aren't aware of what this deep water drilling is, can you just give a really brief rundown on very clearly what it actually means to be doing that?
Yeah, well look, I am no engineer, so the non-engineer's version is that you have a platform that's on the top of the surface of the ocean, and you put a dirty grate drill down into the ocean floor, more than a kilometre deeper within the water than, as I say, in the Deepwater Horizon case. And you try to find if there's oil reserves underneath the ocean floor. There is absolutely no way of doing it safely. It's really a question of when, not if, there will be an accident. And then it's just how big would the accident be? And the spill modelling we've seen says that if there was an oil spill in the Great Australian Bight, it could go as far as extending from Western Australia right up around the coast, past Victoria, to Port Macquarie.
Which is mid-north coast, man. Like, it's not that far from being bordering into Queensland.
It is madness, and it's not modelling that you've done, Ziggy, or that I've done that shows that. That is industry's own modelling that shows that's what a spill could be like.
So let me get this right, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on some of these points, is that to look for these reserves, you have to shoot a sound gun essentially into the seabed,
yep,
which has actually come back with a huge amount of research and data on the most recent study that actually kills phytoplankton within like a kilometre of the blast and so forth, the very base of the food chain. The Deepwater Horizon event you're talking about, because that's particularly for young folk, that actually has happened quite a while ago.
Forget my age, yes.
No, it's not you. But for people who are unaware of that event, what sort of conditions and oceans did that event happen in? Was it anything like the Southern Ocean we're talking about, or not?
Well, it was calmer ocean, still deep ocean, but calmer ocean, shallower than the Great Australian Bight, and really significantly, there was an infrastructure of rescue around Deepwater Horizon that would not be anywhere near the Great Australian Bight. So the carnage that we saw The tragedy of the lives of people who were killed when the explosion happened and the fire, then the scale of the environmental disaster that spilled through the Gulf of Mexico, the communities that were ruined because the fishing's been destroyed or the tourism has been destroyed. So it couldn't be cleaned up there. The tragedy is still unfolding all these years later, but there they've got a whole lot of infrastructure of rescue and support around it. In the Southern Ocean, the last thing we heard was that the closest rescue ships are in Singapore, which last time I checked is not a suburb of Adelaide.
And it's also 15 days. If there was to be an event, it would take 15 days to have any level of infrastructure to come and help that event. And I've driven that road back and forth quite a bit with touring. I've done 3 laps from Sunshine Coast to Perth and back. And so I've seen that side of the world. And if you have, it's really hard to come and comprehend. But even if after 15 days said backup got there to help this issue, if there was a spill, there's just physically not ways to clean parts of that coastline. That's why it is when you go surfing and you go try and walk down these cliffs and you're legitimately putting your board up on rocks and climb back up to get like almost vertical faces.
Yeah.
It is an untouched, incredibly wild ocean, but we don't have an option. If something like that happened, we would have even less opportunity to clean it than what happened in Deepwater Horizon. We'd have only a percentage of that.
There is no practical way of doing anything. I mean, you've just evoked it very, very well, and I'm smiling because the last time I was at the Bight Coast, I spent some time getting down a cliff face and then under a boulder and then some other things. I was doing some other things there, but this was how you got to the water. It is not a place. You cannot clean up an ocean oil spill properly anyway, and it goes double for in the Bight. And that's why we have to seize this moment, because what we need Australian politicians to do is to act like leaders on this issue, and to say we've got the Great Australian Bight. It's on the Great Ocean Road, which is absolutely iconic. One of the most visited tourist parts of Australia that we have now, and not so many people know that underneath the waters of the Great Australian Bight we've got this great southern reef. And if you look at the footage, because we've done a lot now of filming with drones and with divers of the reef over the last couple of months. We had a ship, the Rainbow Warrior, down there, and the shots of the ocean that have come out of that are incredible. The colours, the wildlife, everyone, this leafy sea dragons. So now's the time. We've got to say to our politicians, permanent protection from our Great Australian Bight, permanent protection of our Great Southern Reef.
And it's in the locality of this side of the world, New Zealand has passed a law to not have the drilling, which is a huge step forward.
Absolutely.
That we can definitely err on that side of. I think what's really important for Australians and people from other parts of the world who are listening on this now to realise is that outside of the environmental risk, across Australia, our fisheries are a $3 billion per annum industry. We well know that southern part of the ocean, South Australia, Great Australian Bight, is where we have perhaps some of our most prized produce comes from, so to speak. And then we have the tourism industry, which is one of the few industries that actually circulates money back into the Australian economy at over $115 billion per annum. This is not just a level of do we care about the environment and the whales. Of course, I very much do. This is also actually looking out for Australian jobs and Australian industries that have an incredible base right now. We're talking about 4 states worth of that.
Absolutely. I mean, that beautiful coastline, the reputation that it has for incredible seafood, for incredible agricultural produce, and everything you think of when you hear about places like Kangaroo Island and Victor Harbour, and over on the Victorian side, places like Apollo Bay, all of that being at risk, all of those jobs, and all of those ways of life. I mean, there are people who are 2nd generation, 3rd generation fishers or in the lobster industry, whatever.
It's genuinely part of our heritage.
It's part of our heritage. All of that could be gone. All of that could be gone.
For people who are listening in, because we're at this point right now as we're doing this interview where the next call to action, it actually needs to be a step from the other side before that can be taken. in the meantime, if this interview gets released before there's a very clear call to action, what can people do regarding this issue with the Great Australian Bight, with the drilling that's proposed? What can they do to get involved and at least learn about it?
Yeah.
What can they do?
Well, look, it's really, really clear. There are some great calls to action, and I mean, I think you're right. Look, if you're not motivated by the environment or jobs, be motivated by just keeping up with New Zealand, because I, for one, don't like being beaten by New Zealand in any contest. So the call to action, it's really clear. Our politicians respond to being contacted by voters within their electorate. So get involved, contact your local federal MP, and it's really, really simple. All you need to say is you want the Great Australian Bight protected from deep water oil drilling for good. You want permanent protection for our Great Australian Bight. And if you need more information, look, jump on the Greenpeace website. There's heaps of information there.
Get some facts. Have that all available and ready here, where it's like not just that you don't want that's a valid enough reason, but also that these are the reasons why.
These are the reasons, and we have the facts on our side here, don't we?
Yeah.
I mean, whether it's the risk profile, where the modelling shows it's unacceptable, the value to the economy, or the incredible statistics. I mean, the fact that 85% of the creatures in the Bight are found nowhere else in the world, that is just remarkable. Just think of those unique species, down there. And there is an opportunity to win this one, and protect those extraordinary places for good.
I think it's really important that you touched on contacting your local MPs and your politicians within your region, because it's really important that it has been public outcry, for example, over Instagram and social media, but it still is, in this day and age with everything that's going on, it's still so important to these people in political power. What matters is the letters and the phone calls.
Absolutely.
And if it's going to help them towards winning the next electoral debate. So it's, I think, a very clear point, guys, is like, learn about the issue. Don't just take our word for it. I think learn about the issue, bring it forward with facts, contact your local MP, and I guess just stay up to date with where we get to in the coming weeks.
Absolutely. And look, I mean, when it comes to Greenpeace is only people. Greenpeace is independent. We have never taken any money from any government or any business ever. But there are well over 1 million people who are part of Greenpeace in Australia alone. And the thing about those 1 million people is they are amazing, they are extraordinary, and the number is growing all the time. And, there is power in people letting our politicians know what we care about. And yes, it is jobs of the future. Yes, it is renewable energy. It is our beautiful coastlines. People who can actually surf like you. I'm hopeless in the ocean. Don't listen to me on that. People who could, that is what our country is about, and politicians will listen to that.
Yeah, absolutely. David, thank you very much for having us today.
Total pleasure. Thanks for all you do.
And we'll hopefully touch base again as this issue continues.
Hopefully so.
Yeah. Tune in. We're going to try and do as much as we can over the next 20 odd days regarding this issue. So do your research, look into it, see what you can do. You might have some of the best ideas. So come back soon.